Hello and welcome to India on 99.94. I'm Sara Varis and with me is Nikesh Rugani. And today we are going to talk about everything Indian women's cricket, looking ahead to the T20 World Cup, the Tri Series that was held recently where India lost the finals. They went down in the finals, made 109 for 4 in the final, which South Africa chased on very easily. Uh, no fight from them, which was disappointing to see. Obviously, there was no Shafali Verma, there was no Richa Ghosh, but what stood out for me was the number of selection changes they made throughout the series, which was baffling to me. Uh, and the reliance on Mandana. Mandana had a quiet series, and it was just like without her, the especially in the final, the other batters just couldn't stand up. Their intent was well below par, making 109 in 20 overs and losing 4 wickets. They underutilized their batting. Nikesh, how do you see India uh, ahead of the T20 World Cup? Very short, what are their chances ahead of the T20 World Cup?
Look, they'll be in the conversation. You can't deny that. Runners up last time in the T20 World Cup didn't perform well in the 50 over World Cup, but then in 2020s they've been doing a lot better, a lot more consistently, although they have been winning bilateral ODIs and the things like that as well. So throughout their white ball cricket, they've been performing consistently well, not quite well enough for that championship status. Usually the Aussies are the ones in their way, like in the last final of the MCG, that famous final, the Commonwealth Games as well, just falling short to the Aussies once again, but beating England and performing really well throughout that whole tournament as well. So they'll be in the conversation. They've got Shafali Verma returning. They've got Richa Ghosh returning as well from their victorious under 19 campaign as well. So they might add a bit more steel and winning mentality because they've just won a World Cup. So they'll be on a real high, I think, going into that tournament, and they'll hopefully bring that air of confidence with them, and that might spread around the team. The team itself might take sort of pride in the fact that an Indian women's team has just won an ICC World event, and there's no reason they shouldn't think that they can't do the same. So yes, you're right about the Tri Series, disappointing end to it, but with all the sort of mixing and matching throughout the series with the team selection, I think part of that is just to give everybody some game time. And yes, winning a series going into a World Cup can be important, but I don't think it's the be all and end all. And I think it's more about what you find out about those fringe players and those sort of 50-50 selections that you might have within your thinking at the time as a captain and as a head coach. So hopefully they've sold a few of those things. And you're right, Smriti needs to be in form at the top of the order, and then everything else seems to click into place. But I think Shafali alongside her, and I know Shafali didn't have a great under 19s World Cup, but she had a good one, and she was striking at like 196 through the
Yeah.
tournament. So all it needs really is Smriti to play like she does, and she strikes pretty well anyway. Maybe not quite near the 200 mark, but then if Shafali can get those real quick 20s and 30s at the top alongside a firing Smriti, then everything falls into place. Then you've got Jemmy or whoever comes in at number three. They've got a bit more of a sort of license to take a couple of balls to get set. Harman can come in and do what she does, and it just kind of sets everything up nicely. And then you've got Richa Ghosh back in the middle order, such an important player now for the senior side. I mean, it's amazing how quickly her rise has been in this side. We were talking about, is it Yastika Bhatia or Tanya Bhatia for so long, and then Richa Ghosh comes in and say, actually, it's me, and an immovable object almost in this side now. I'm so crucial to the way that we want to play in that middle order. I think Dipti, you know, again, didn't fire with the bat that much of late and in this Tri Series, but of late in the last 12 months, you'd say she's found a new gear or two in her batting as well in that middle order. So I think it looks in decent shape. they look in decent shape, and they'll be in that conversation going into that World Cup as well.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting you spoke about Dipti because I filtered out these stats after her. The where she ran out the batter at the non-strikers end. So after that, her performances have just improved so much. After that, she scored in T20I's average of 38 with a strike rate of 145, which is way above her career strike rate. And she's picked up 28 wickets at an average of 12, which is, she was the player of the series in this tri series also. She was exceptional in the Asia Cup also. So is there a case for her to probably bat at number three? Because right now, if I'm looking at down the order, it's like Pooja Vastrakar played at number six in the final of the Tri Series, and Pooja Vastrakar has a strike rate of 120 or odd. Yastika Bhatia follows. She has a strike rate of 86. She might not play if Richa Ghosh returns. And Devika Vaidya also strike rate of 88. Yeah, so if India have always been a very top heavy team, so why not make the top four or five as promising as you can and throw up Dipti Sharma at number three? Rodriguez has been very underwhelming. She has a lot of promise, a lot of potential, but she has a strike rate of 112, which with an average of 29, which is just not good enough. Harleen Deol has her good days, has a lot of off days also. Even in the final, she scored at a strike rate of 82. Struck at 82, 56 balls for 46. So why not have Mandana there, and then Shafali, and probably Dipti Sharma and Harmanpreet, then Richa Ghosh to follow. So is that the way India should go, or
Potentially. Although I get what you're saying, and it's almost like it kind of reminds me of a player in form at number six being moved up to number three. Always reminds me of VVS Lakshman in the 2001 Border Gavaskar Trophy, where in that Eden Gardens test, the whole series he was slated he's going to be a number six for the series, and then all of a sudden he's your man in form. Go and put him at number three and see what he does, and he gets that 281 and stuff, and never really looks back for quite a period in time. They stuck with him at number three and put Dravid down at number six, and then they swapped them back, obviously, and he was coming in at five. So I mean, it could happen, but then are you losing something with Dipti because she has to bowl a lot of overs as well? She's going to bowl 4 overs in each game. She's going to be at the heart of the action with the ball. Do you want to overburden her by coming in at number three? Okay, it's T20 cricket and it is only 4 overs. So it's not like she's doing it in a test match where she's having to bowl 25 overs and then come in at the top of the order. So it's slightly different, but she's been doing so well in that middle order as well. She's finally found what she's good at. She's striking well, 145, like you say, since that final at Lords. And it's just everything's clicked for her in that middle order. Do you want to mess it up by then putting her at number three and asking her to do something slightly different? Because even if you just say, yeah, just go out and play the same way, she won't. She's batting in a different position. Psychologically, you're going to think there's more responsibility on me now as a top order batter. So I don't know, will it mess her up? But then what is the solution? You're right. Harleen Deol was tried at number three, underwhelming. Jamie Rodriguez, I think since the first season of the 100 where she was magnificent, her form's gone off a cliff really, which is such a shame because we saw a few flashes in the Commonwealth Games and stuff, but the strike rate's not great, like you say, and the runs just have completely dried up. So yeah, what do you do? Do you move Harmanpreet to number three, but then there's a bit of a hole there at number four?
yeah.
So there's a few questions over the top order, and it'd be interesting to see what they go with.
Definitely, yeah. And just one more about the selections I was talking about. That was another big surprise for me. Was they didn't play Anjali, the left armor. She played, I think, just one game in the tournament. It's not that probably they were testing out other players, or she was not up the pecking order. Maybe they wanted to try out Shikha Pandey, who played only 3 games out of the 5. But then she was brilliant against Australia. She's a left armer. She gets the ball into the right hander. She can swing the ball both ways, and she just played one match. While Devika Vaidya also, she wasn't given a longer run. Um, Amanjot, who had a very good start to the series, she isn't in the World Cup squad, so probably you know why she's not been picked. Uh, but then the selections have overall, with the Indian cricket, they have overall been very messed up, you can say. Like S Meghana at the start of last year, she was, creating waves, and she was the next big basher, you could say. And she is nowhere near the scene now. She didn't even play during the series. So uh, and India doesn't have a head coach also right now. So do you think they have a plan in place? Because they got in Shikha Pandey, she didn't, after they gave her a call up after 2020-21, and she didn't pick up any wickets. Then they dropped her. Probably Anjali, who could have been a good replacement, she played just one match in the series. So do you think they have a plan in place, or is it just like, our batters will do the job, and then we have our spinners? The middle order and the bowling for me still continues to be a headache. One more thing is Renuka Singh. She played two matches. She's not an established player, someone like a Jhulan Goswami. You could, okay, you could drop her and try out the other players. She's relatively new, made her debut during the Commonwealth Games. So it's not that she is well established. Also, she could have played all five games in the tournament, and you could have tried her out in these conditions, South African conditions. So do you think India made best use of their series in South Africa?
Yeah, you're right. There are still a lot of question marks for the with the bowling, and based on that, you could probably say they could have done a little bit more to get some of these bowlers in form and find out who their best bowling unit is. And yeah, with Renuka Singh Thakur as well, it was strange to me that in the final, when you're defending such a low target and you've got your strike bowler at the top, coming in to open the bowling. I think, was she the only seamer in that game? I think she was, wasn't she? Was she the only seamer in the final? I'm
Yep,
pretty
I
sure she
think, yeah,
was.
yeah.
And she bowled one over up front, and then she didn't bowl again till I think it was the 10th, 11th over, something like that. By that time, you kind of
Hmm.
know if you're going to be in with a chance of winning the game, and they weren't. But why wouldn't you use her at the top of the order? Because you saw what she did in
Definitely.
the Commonwealth Games, and that's when she really sort of burst onto the scene, and was taking wickets at the top of the order, causing a lot of problems at the top of the order in fairly similar conditions. I mean, it was skidding through. She was getting a bit of movement, and that's kind of the assistance she had in South Africa as well. So why not just I know winning the final isn't as important as winning the World Cup, of course not, but surely you're there. You want to win. You want to go. Winning breeds winning, right? And you're going to take confidence from winning a tri series into the World Cup more so than losing in the final, which was a disappointment, albeit not a massive one. So I don't quite understand things like that, and hopefully it was just a bit of stupid experimenting, which didn't quite work, and they won't do that when the tournament starts. But who knows? Who knows? I mean, we've seen some
Yeah.
strange things from the Indian women's team in recent times in terms of tactics. So yeah, let's see.
One correction there. Pooja Vastrakar was a seamer in that match, but she just
You're
bowled two
right.
overs. She
That's
gave
right. Yeah.
away, yeah.
Yeah.
She gave
Again, they
away,
just went spin heavy.
yeah, yeah. She bowled two overs and gave away 18 runs, and 14 of which I think came in the last over. So, again, these are South African conditions. Do you think that spin will be, or spin is the way to go? Or I personally would have wanted Anjali to have been given a rope in this series, and Devika Vaidya, Shafali can bowl. She bowled one over in that match. Shafali has been bowling off late, and she can probably bowl a few overs. So I would not have Devika Vaidya. They probably have Shikha Pandey, because you need that experience going in. She can hit the ball a bit also, so it's not that she's totally out of form or whatever, and you give
And
her a
she's got the experience as well,
yeah,
Shika Pandey,
yeah,
and I like her, I like her energy. She's got good energy on the pitch, sort of breeds
yeah.
positivity whenever she comes into bowl. So yeah, in those conditions, definitely, you need more options in that department, and hopefully they'll have realised that after this series, and hopefully it's not too late come the World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, now we are going to take a break, and once we come back, we are going to talk about India's under 19 win and if that could have helped India, the senior team, as they move forward in the competition.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So India won the under 19 World Cup. How much do you think that confidence, just that winning mentality, is Shafali and Richa Ghosh? It was bizarre that they flew back from South Africa to Ahmedabad for one day for the felicitation, and now they flew back again to South Africa the very next day. That was a little bizarre to me. But they are coming in with that winning mentality. They have won the first ever ICC Women's World Cup for India. Um, do you think the senior team is going to take inspiration from that? And Richa and Shofali, both Richa didn't have the best of tournaments. She dropped a few catches also. Shofali was, she has been named in the ICC squad for the tournament, the ICC team of the tournament. How is that going to affect the Indian senior team?
Yeah, look, obviously it's a feel-good factor, isn't it, around Indian women's cricket at the moment, and winning an ICC tournament is brilliant, especially when you've got two of those players who you've got in your squad for the senior T20 World Cup as well. So yeah, of course it'll breed confidence. And look, if you are just listening to this and you didn't hear our episode a little while back, a few days back, we did do an entire episode on India winning the under-19 World Cup as well. So go back and listen to that if you haven't done so already. And, we did make some of these points in there as well, that of course it's going to breed confidence in this team. And I think Shafali, like I mentioned, in the team of the tournament, debatable, but, as a captain and as somebody who struck at 196 strike rate through the tournament as well, and did get India off to flyers on a few occasions, maybe justified given all that. And like I say, that's kind of her role in this T20 Indian senior side as well. Just try and get India off to flying starts. Smriti's the one who usually can bat through an innings or the majority of an innings at a good strike rate as well, but not quite as gun-ho as Shafali. Shafali's role is, it's like the Virender Sehwag role, isn't it? Just see the ball, hit the ball, and try and score as many as you can, as quickly as you can. And sometimes that will turn into big scores as well. And I think it will give her a lot of confidence about her own game, just the fact that she's led a side to winning a world trophy. She's still very young, of course. So she's got a long way to go. And I think this will help her mature as well, because she's been a leader now of this group that won that World Cup. And I think it's going to do nothing but good things for her. And hopefully we see the results of that immediately. And you're right about Richa Ghosh. Look, it wasn't the best tournament. I mean, it was great that India won it without those two sort of firing on all cylinders, and they had plenty of other heroes as well. So, like Sadhu with the ball, and Archana Devi with the ball, Serawat at the top of the order scoring, highest run score in the tournament with 297. So lots of other good performers, which was heartening to see. But Richa Ghosh, I don't think she'll be too disheartened with the way things went. She's a world champion at the end of the day. She did contribute in some way. It's not as if she did absolutely nothing for the tournament. But yeah, she needs to improve on her wicket keeping a little bit and just maybe relax a bit more. She's sometimes quite tense when she's going for the ball and sort of snapping towards the ball and just let everything flow. And she needs to find her flowing movements behind the stumps, I think, just to relax a bit more. And that will just help her rhythm in terms of catching the ball as well. But again, both of them so young, and they know what winning on the world stage feels like now. So as Shafali said in that post-match interview, when she was asked, is this the only trophy that you're going to be bringing home in the near future? And she said, hopefully not. Or in fact, I think she said no, a definite no. This is not going to be the only trophy. We're going to go. She didn't say we'll try. She said we're going to win the bigger one as well. So, that shows you the confidence of somebody like a Shefali Verma.
Can they get over the line? Just one sentence, yes or no. Can they win the Women's Senior T20 World Cup?
Possibly. There's one word.
Possibly. I'm not as optimistic as you. Probably they have a lot of issues in their middle order. It's as
who are the apart from Australia?
Yeah.
And if they can avoid Australia en route to the final, who's going to stop them?
Probably England. England are
possibly. England are a very strong side, but India have beaten England in England with those problems.
Yeah, it's just those that mental issues, and just the pressure, the burden of pressure getting to them. I think that is what is again going to be their biggest challenge, and we've spoken about this so many times. It's just that there is a hole in their middle order. It's not, if the top 2 or 3 are out, and we did speak about Dipti Sharma possibly batting up the order, maybe that might not be the best step. I know I only floated the question, but because if the top 2 or 3 are out, then the middle order is just like there's probably no one there in the middle order. It'll be too inexperienced. Richa Ghosh, we have a lot of expectations, but she's too young. She's still a teenager, not played a lot at this stage. So that is my biggest issue, and the dependence on spin. What if the wicket is not as spin friendly? I think this happened during the 2018 T20 World Cup also. India were playing in West Indies, and most of the league games were on slower pitches, so the spinners had a lot of help. And when they moved to the semi-final, which was at a different venue, the spinners didn't get a lot of help, and because the faster bowlers had been under bowled throughout the tournament, so they never turned up. And it was the match where Mithali Raj, the whole controversy around Mithali Raj. I think she didn't play that semi-final. So there was a lot of controversy around the semi-final and everything. I am scared that, something like that could happen, because India used their spinners so much and probably overutilized their spinners, that when the wicket is not as helpful, then you're like, okay, our seamers are under bowled, which is exactly what happened in the Tri-Series final also. Renuka Singh and Pujarawas Thakur combined to bowl just 5 overs. So that is one of my biggest fears for India, and I'm not as optimistic because of.
But apart from England, right? Say England turn up and play their best cricket, then that's going to be a difficult game. But even then, I think you go toe to toe with England, and there's a lot of hype around the England women's team at the moment. There always has been, and for a reason, because they have been very successful. World Cup winners, 50 over World Cup winners, beating India in that final in 2017, and they've always been there or thereabouts. But India beat them in the bilaterals. They beat them in the Commonwealth Games semi-final as well. Say England turn up and have a good day and India have a below par day, that could happen. But who else is there? I mean, South Africa have got their own problems. I mean, there's a lot of controversy about Dane van Niekerk being left out, and because she failed a fitness test, and it seems ridiculous to me, because she's the best leader that they've got, and such an experienced cricketer, and just a brilliant cricket brain. Her wife's obviously in the team and has taken a bit of time off from preparation for the tournament to be at home and sort of mourn with her almost about not being. it's all kicking off. That's not the ideal prep for a World Cup, and you got to feel for somebody like Van Niekerk who's coming back from injury. But those would be their probably two biggest stars. And I know they've got other decent, talented players, and they beat India in this tri-series, and we saw all that talent on offer as well. But they don't have anyone who should strike fear into the Indian team if they're playing at their best. West Indies, again, they've got one or two individuals, but that's about, maybe three or four you could say, but, just individuals as a team, they're not really superly consistent. And who else is there? New Zealand sometimes compete. They've got, again, one or two players who could be considered world class in the women's game, but no more than that really. So I think you're overhyping everyone else. I think you're overhyping. India they'll definitely get to the semis, definitely, and then it's anyone's game, isn't it? Semis are a bit of a who turns up on the day kind of job, and they could get knocked out, they could get through. So I think they'll do well.
One thing, while you were giving all these points, I just thought of one thing. Is the lack of competition somehow hampering India's growth? Not growth, but allowing India to hide their flaws. I think that's framing it better. They've reached the Commonwealth Games final and all these other tournaments. They've had a good run. Is the lack of competition somehow proving to India, yeah, okay, we have our middle order issues, but that's okay. We consistently do well in these ICC events, so it's not really a big issue. So do you think India is a strong team on its own, or do you think they do that well because the other teams are probably, as you said, I overhype the other team? So is it because India is strong, or is it because the other teams are not as much of a competition to the Indian team like Australia or England?
I think the fact that Australia are so good makes us think that India and England should be as good, because that's what happens in the men's game. And I just think this Aussie side is on a different planet, really. And when they're playing at their best, they're unbeatable, as we've seen. But India do compete against them.
Yeah.
So whether you think you got problems or not, you might have problems in comparison to somebody like an Australian. I think that's a good thing, that we consider India to have this many problems in the women's side, because I don't think they have as many problems as we're probably saying, but we're comparing them to the Australians, aren't we? That's the benchmark. If you look at them against any other side in the world, they don't really have any problems, I don't think. Toe to toe, they could compete with anyone and beat anyone on their day. And they've even shown against Australia that they can compete and they can get themselves into winning positions, and occasionally beat the Australians as well. They're not as regularly as they probably should, given the chances they've had in recent times and even going back a few years. So they're nearly there. They are near. It's just, look, the standard in women's international cricket isn't the same as men's cricket, as in there's not 4 or 5 really strong teams, whereas in men's cricket, Australia is strong, India is strong, England is strong. Then you've got the West Indies in white ball cricket were strong for such a long period of time. Pakistan are always strong in these tournaments. New Zealand are always strong. Sri Lanka can cause an upset or two as well, as we saw in the Asia Cup. So and even Bangladesh, in ICC tournaments, they've not quite found their feet yet, but in bilaterals, they can beat anyone at home. So, and they have beaten anyone. They've beaten India at home recently. So there's a bigger talent pool, a much bigger talent pool in terms of the spread of talent in men's cricket, and it's on a much more level playing field. I think women's cricket will get there, but it's a newer thing on the international stage. So, hopefully we just continue to see investment like we are with the WPL, and that improves the standard of not only Indian women's cricket, but just women's international cricket in general as well, and gives these players an opportunity to get up to that Australian level.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And you spoke about the WPL. We'll talk more about that after this break.
If you love the language of cricket And want more? Then head over to the 99.94 app and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So, according to reports, the WPL is expected to start in the first week of March with Ambani's team and Adani's team facing off against each other. I don't know why that is being so overhyped, but it's all over the news. Ambani versus Adani, probably because of all that Adani have. Everything that's going on with Adani and all that. Do you think it's going to distract the Indian women's team, or not only the Indian women's team, the cricketers on a whole, with the WPL coming up? And we've seen in the past that the recency bias is a lot. In the men's IPL also, when the auction is held, players who've done just just before the auctions, they go for huge sums. Do you think that's going to be a distraction for the players? And one more thing, I don't probably you've seen the chatter about women's IPL and how that there is the other side which is talking about how WPL could be the death of international cricket. People are talking about that they are going to get a lot of money and people won't be interested in international cricket anymore, which I think doesn't really make sense, because WPL is going to go on for 2 or 3 weeks a year. So why won't players play in the WPL, play for international cricket? So
yeah, I mean, those are the kind of problems which faced the men's game when the IPL was launched. IPL has always been longer than 2 or 3 weeks, and usually at least 5 or 6 weeks, even at the very start. So just before I carry it, let me just switch the light on in this room. That's better. It's getting the days are getting longer in England at the moment, so I didn't think I'd necessarily need it today, but just saw myself on the screen almost out of vision. Yeah, look, it happened with the West Indies team, didn't it, in the men's team, when they started getting all this big money playing in the IPL, and then these other franchise leagues launched around the world, and they weren't really getting paid well by the West Indies Cricket Board. And they decided that they're not going to take up central contracts. And for that reason, they weren't selected for a lot of cricket. They weren't available for a lot of cricket in between ICC tournaments. And then they used to turn up at the T20 World Cups and things like that. They won a couple of them as well. So it was a bit of a mess, West Indies cricket. It happened to, a few individual players from other nations as well, where they thought, I can just make a living off this. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen in the women's game, because I don't think women's international cricket is quite in the same position as men's international cricket at that time. I think playing for your nation will always come first, but this is a nice way for them. Let's face it, first and foremost, I think to earn proper money, to earn decent money. It's not the same as the men still, but it will get better as the years go on. The pots are going to increase in terms of what teams can spend on players to make up their squad. So that purse will increase as well. And as a result, players will be getting paid more, hopefully. They can earn money. They can improve their standard as well by playing against the best, because all the Aussies are going to come over. A lot of the English, few South Africans, West Indians, Sri Lankans, whatever, thrown in there, New Zealanders, and the best that India's got to offer as well. They're going to be playing on a big stage, hopefully in front of busy, packed stadiums. It's going to be all over the television. It's going to be marketed well, we think. And it's a BCCI product, so it's going to have all that razzmatazz as well. So, of course, they want to come and play in it. But it's a lot easier as well with the women's calendar to have a window. There's no other major, huge global women's tournament like this, because you've got the 100, but they can't always attract the best players across men's and women's just because of the time of year it's at, and some national teams are playing and all that kind of stuff. I think they'll make sure that they have a window for this every year in the women's calendar, 3 weeks or whatever it is. There'll be no international cricket, and they can all just come and play in this, and everyone will be available. So I think it's a lot easier with the way the women's calendar is. That might change in years to come, but at the moment, I think for the next few years, they'll be okay. And this is just a nice little addition to the international calendar.
Definitely. And do you think this is going to distract the players?
In terms of just having something
In
else to
terms
focus
of,
on and
yeah, just,
through the World Cup.
yeah, it's like something big, possibly. The World Cup is the bigger thing, but there is more at stake. It's not just the trophy. I could be earning more money than I've earned in years in one single tournament. So, will that could pep up the players to do better also, but it could be a distraction for a lot of players also. Probably they've never played in this kind of a atmosphere before, where something bigger is at stake for them than the World Cup. It's not just international cricket now, and possibly doing well in the WPL is going could earn them deals in the other leagues also, and in the future you never know, there could be other leagues coming up, because uh, the two richest Indians, they have invested in women's teams, and they could be well in having a T20 Women's Championship or something like that. And with the Indian players, probably the BCCI is going to give them NOC. I don't know if later they change their mind, because they are allowed to play right now in the 100 and the BBL. So it could go on to get bigger, and there could be more leagues coming up, so there could be a lot more at stake. So do you think the likes of Richa Ghoshes and the youngsters, do you think they're going to be like, wow, just get distracted by what awaits them?
Yeah, I mean, especially the younger ones, it could happen. I mean, somebody like Smriti and Harman and these players and Dipti Sharma, they know they're going to be picked. They know they're going to make decent money. They're going to be, so they don't need to worry about it, really. There might be that additional pressure of having to perform well to justify that they're in that position of being one of the big money makers as well. And that could be the case for a lot of players around the world as well. And there will be certainly players, I think, playing for selection during this World Cup. You might have players from countries who don't get paid that well, and there's quite a lot of them in the women's game. So they will be desperate to perform really well to put themselves in the shop window ahead of that auction. We haven't got any details of the auction yet. We don't know if they're going to have icon players like they had in the first season of the IPL. So whether the likes of Smriti and Harman and these players will just be given to a particular franchise and signed at a particular fee, which will be in line with their highest paid player, or what, we just don't know. I mean, that's the only frustrating thing about this WPL. It's all very last minute. It's all very BCCI. I mean, you talked earlier, by the way, about when we spoke on the earlier episode last time about the Border Gavaskar Trophy, tickets are already on sale. This is like less than a week before the first test. So, already, I mean, in England, tickets go on sale like 9 months before. And they're usually sold out for the first 3 days in most places for test matches, depending on, if it's India or Australia or someone. They'll just sell out, or Pakistan even. They'll sell out in the first 2-3 days will be gone from 9 months before. So that's one thing I don't like about the BCCI. Everything is last minute. So we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know about the auction.
Early, they put up the tickets on sale early. Usually it's just 2 or 3 days before, and the cup pick up
How
from
do
the
people
counter.
prepare for it? How do people, because don't people want to travel to watch these? It's stupid.
Pick up from the counter is even more frustrating, because you can only pick up tickets from the counters a day before the match, and
so you can't get e-tickets and stuff.
You can get, but there are people obviously who might not. Tickets might be sold online, so you go and pick it up from the stadiums, from the counters, because there are a lot more tickets available there, and it's just a mess. Their tickets are sold in black.
I thought everyone in
everything.
India would just get the tickets on their smartphone, even
Just
like
10 or
yeah.
20% of the tickets are sold online by the BCCI. So the rest of it, you
That's
have
the
to
problem,
go.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's and then there's this whole queue before the there's a stampede. There was this incident in Hyderabad before one of the matches, where there was this whole stampede, because it was so crazy. People had just thronged the counters for tickets. There was one counter giving the tickets. Tickets are sold in black, and yeah, it's a whole mess. Just hope the women's IPL is properly organized
Yeah,
and
hopefully no need for policemen with lathis and stuff just
yeah,
beating people up for trying to bombard the ticket office and stuff. But yeah, look, it seems all very last minute. So we don't know how the auction's going to work. Maybe they should have had the auction before the World Cup, but they've
yeah,
just everything's been so last minute with even selling the franchises that it just probably wasn't possible. So they might well have it within the first week of the World Cup. It would just be arranged, and the players won't be able to be there, but they'll have their agents and management, I'm sure, across everything for them. They've all registered. That deadline's passed.
yeah.
So let's see. But hopefully it'll be a big success, and hopefully it doesn't distract from India winning the T20 World Cup, which they've got a good chance, I think, of doing.
Hopefully they do that. Yeah. That's all we have on this show. Please drop in your comments and your feedback. We'll be waiting to hear them. Thank you and goodbye.